have to answer for your actions. And God may not be so merciful.
I got the PPs in the mic. Good. There is one day every year that standard brewers like myself look forward to than anything else. Rotation Day. This is our Christmas, birthday, wedding, all rolled into one, where standard gets a fresh reset and new strategies are able to be experimented with, and crazy decks that were nowhere before can now spring up and change the game. When Edge of Eternities drops, players will be saying goodbye.
Try me,
to staples of the format, and old foes turned friends alike. Kind of wild to imagine how much people despised Shelly when she first came out, and now with how much aggro there is everywhere, everyone just like, oh please Shieldred, save us. I'll chuck images of the 4 sets on the screen. If you don't actually know, these are the ones that are going to be rotating out, but it's more or less anything to do with Phyrexians. Oh, and battles. Does anyone remember battles? These were the first brand new card type since Planeswalkers over 10 years ago, and were initially teased on Atraxa Grand Unifier the set before, which led to a lot of hype around them. Not only did we get a new Atraxa at the time, who was already the most popular commander, but we also got a teaser for a brand new card type, which could have been anything. Well, we didn't actually have to wait long, because when one spoiler season ends now, another immediately begins, and we were previewed our first battle. There were effectively double-sided cards you gave to a player to defend, which had an ETB effect, and then could be destroyed to be flipped over into its other side, which gave you another effect. This was usually a powerful permanent. So, with 2 years of playing them now, how did they go? Well, they flopped, competitively at least. But that's not to say all of them did. There were some exceptions. Now that the dust is settled, there are a few that have stood up and performed much better than people might remember, which I'll be discussing today. Remember to chuck us a like and a sub if you enjoy content like this, as it tells me, as a new YouTube channel, the kind of content you want to see more of. Let's start with the most played battle in Commander. Invasion of Ikoria is an X-costed battle, which lets you tutor any non-human creature and put it straight onto the battlefield. If you had to double take it hearing that effect, I don't blame you. It's as powerful as it sounds. You may not know this, but most creatures in Magic are non-human, meaning for 2 extra mana, you can play any creature from your deck onto the battlefield. This can be anything, like a combo piece in Protein Hulk, to giving a poison player a trivial way to put Venerated Rot Priest onto the battlefield. While you're soaking that in, remember, this is also a double-faced card. You could play this as early as turn 2, get an Ornithopter out for whatever reason, but then if you can deal 6 damage to it, you actually get the second component of it. What is that? How about an 8/8 with reach that ignores blocking? It goes without saying, this card is stacked and fits in so many green commander decks. It probably shouldn't come as a surprise that this is the most popular and expensive of the battles, which at rare goes for just under $10 as of recording this. Despite this card's nutty power level, it actually saw limited constructed play, unlike our next card, which is one of the battles to actually see proper play. Invasion of Gobakhan is a good insight into how to spot any future good battle cards. On release, flashier cards like Invasion of Ikoria that I just mentioned and Invasion of Tarkir, they drew a lot of people's attention. Gobakhan here was mostly ignored until people started seeing 1, how fast it came out, and 2, how easy it was to flip. These 2 factors were pivotal to this card taking off for white aggro decks to hate out opponents looking to slow you down. Making an opponent's spot removal, big blocking creature, or board wipe cost 2 more mana was often backbreaking against some players, given that the same players who would play this battle would also often flip it the same turn they played it. This flip side, by the way, is perfect for the aggro white weenie decks that run it. Every turn you attack, your creatures that attacked are buffed, and on top of it all, you can sacrifice it to give protection to those creatures. Suddenly, even if your opponent gets to that board wipe, unless it's exiling your creatures, it's actually not going to be able to even destroy them to begin with. The low health on this battle makes it massively important for its power, and in my mind, encapsulates what makes a good battle. Can you flip it the turn you play it and get both effects? Our next battle also supported this while even ramping you. Invasion of Zendikar, fittingly, draws inspiration from other 4-mana ramp spells, and in my opinion, outclasses them by offering a second benefit should you deal 4 damage to it. If you do, your reward is a 4/4 Vigilance Haste Mana Dork that also counts as a land. You can trigger landfall simply by defeating this battle, and courtesy of it having haste, you can tap it for mana straight away. This makes for an excellent ramping piece that synergizes impeccably with Topiary Stomper. This plant dinosaur comes down on turn 3, getting you to 5 lands. You can then follow up next turn with Invasion of Zendikar, giving you the 7 lands to be able to attack with the Stomper, a 4/4 vigilance creature, which can attack the battle and flip it immediately, giving you 2 4/4s, one of them being a mana dork, ready to go. If you can do this, you'll be put in an excellent position for the rest of the game. Here's another wacky battle. When you think of Teferi, what comes to mind? Control, insufferable agony, that time he was a bird. What about knights? Invasion of New Phyrexia is another X-costed invasion, which summons knights to the battlefield equal to the amount you paid. What makes this card spicy is that it flips to a Teferi planeswalker, suited to the knight creature type. His main draw is his ability to spit out permanent emblems off the jump, giving knights more power and even ward. The obvious use for this is a deck focused on knights, like Sidar, who almost conveniently dropped in the exact same set as this Teferi planeswalker.
Coincidence? I think not!
But I also rate this card in X-costed token generator decks, like Secure the Wastes usually fits into. If you want to be particularly crazy, you could pair this with the blue Duskmourn Leyline in your token deck, naming Knight, to give all your creatures the powerful emblem Teferi can generate. Moving from Knights to Dragons, Invasion of Tarkir is the other 2-mana battle that currently exists, which is able to be flipped for 5 damage, which given the explosive burn Dragons and Red as a whole gets, will probably be flipping outside of combat most of the time. This battle was actually a prelude to the Behold mechanic we saw recently in Tarkir Dragonstorm, and unsurprisingly pairs very well with any dragon cards for that. The flip side of this card doubles down on the dragon burn theme by turning any army of dragons into a nuke's worth of damage that you can dish out as you like. I cannot stress how over games can be if you let the dragon player get going with this card. None of your creatures will live to see the next turn. Speaking of burn, Invasion of Regantha was for a while a useful burn spell which 2-for-1'd their opponents, damaging players for a hefty 4 damage and also removing a 1 HP blocker in the process. This was until blocking stopped mattering. Also before aggro was turn 3 killing you, Invasion of Armenket was a pet favorite card of mine that could 3-for-1 your opponent simply by playing it against slower decks. Nothing was more demoralizing to an Atraxa player than milling her and then making a copy of her with the flip side of this card. Another battle that faded out over time, Invasion of Alara, was briefly used in a tier 1 combo style deck, where its only target in the entire deck was Bramble Familiar. Invasion of Alara would be played, letting you get to Bramble Familiar, but instead of playing the 2/2 creature, you could play Fetch Quest, the 7-mana card that would let you mill and bring out a creature. You were bringing out generally Cemetery Desecrator, which ended up being the demise of this deck because Cemetery Desecrator rotated out and the meta got too fast for it. In another fall from grace, Invasion of Innistrad is also the only battle with Flash. However, it ended up being downshifted when it was reprinted in Innistrad Remastered. Downshifted and it hadn't even left rotation yet. Yikes. Invasion of Tolvada is a reanimation spell able to target any permanents, giving it useful utility in decks with unusual permanent types to bring back. I personally run this in a Planeswalker deck, and the flip side can generate tokens which can be used to defend said Planeswalker. Lastly, in black, a color known for having a pretty shallow pool of board wipes, Invasion of Fiora is a selective board wipe that can be used to clear the path for your commander to swing for damage. The flip side is a new Queen Marchesa, and it's also a pretty obnoxious creature that draws you cards and even removes counters from any permanent. That's about it for the first batch of battles we got in March of the Machines. Going over these does make me feel higher on some of them than I was before, and maybe future battles will build on the highs that some of these cards have. In the meantime, we should all be speccing on Vampire Hexmage in light of the inevitable super broken battle that they will print. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!